Welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week we will discuss tools, tips, and ways to radiate your best life ever, interviewing practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate? Hi, and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. I am joined by Jordan and Gabby of Ascend Hospice to radiate support today. Now, we met at the KC not the Metaphysical Fair, the Mystic Fair.
The Mystic Fair.
Yes. The Mystic Fair in Independence a couple of weekends ago. And I was just fascinated because these two lovely ladies had a table to talk about their hospice services and the things they offer to the dying and their families by way of death doula services. And this is a new term to me, so of course I wanted to get them on the podcast to ask all about it because I find it fascinating. Thank you for joining us, ladies.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Us.
I've been so nerdy about this all day. It's like, ooh, having death doulas on the podcast. This is so exciting.
It is really cool.
And now it is a cool concept. Okay, and so, I just have to ask, why do we need death doulas? I mean, don't we know how to pass on from this life?
So I think that a really important thing, a reason why we have doulas is there's a lot of stuff that transpires at end of life. Just like the rest of our lives that we live, they're very unique to us and family dynamics and who we are. And that is the very same for end of life. We've seen patients who have, a lot of family dynamics, maybe a lot of restlessness at end of life. And, hopefully, the concept and the idea would be that we can have doulas journey with patients when they're on our services, hospice services, prepare for what they might come to experience at end of life. Right. So helping them with transitioning from this world to the next. So a doula is, a non-medical support person, but most people think of a birthing doula.
Right.
And so in that sense, a birthing doula helps bring people into this world. That's a transition,
right.
Going from the mother's womb to existing within the world. Yeah, well, There's also a transition between this world and whatever anyone believes is the next.
Right.
It's a process. It's not something that just happens.
Yeah.
And so to do the work that you do you prescribe to a certain spiritual view of that transition? Is it necessary to do that?
I don't think so. I think just being open to whatever beliefs that a person may have and understanding and meeting them where they are is important.
Yeah.
Not necessarily having, imposing my own belief on what their journey is going to be or their transition is going to be. I'm just here to help them journey to wherever they are going or whatever they believe they are going.
So with that, in our training, we talk about this concept of putting on your doula shoes.
Yes.
So
it's really cool.
There's who we are in life that we live within our workplace, within our friend groups, but those who, want to practice as a doula, help other people, there's a reverence for that experience that someone else is going through. Yeah. And we don't want to project our own thoughts and feelings and beliefs on them. Mm-hmm. I have several doulas that have gone through our training program that have an array of beliefs. And sometimes their beliefs provide them strength. Some people, may utilize prayer for themselves to keep themselves grounded in the moment, to help them be the best practitioner that they can be in serving our patients. But I think like Gabby said, that, we're being open and being there for the families and meeting them where they're at.
Okay, so a belief in an afterlife is really not required.
I don't think so.
Right.
No. I like to tell people there's a beautiful place where they're going.
Right.
Especially at the very end. I've been in hospice for about 6 years,
Right.
and I set what they say in the hospice world a vigil aid. So I specifically set end of life with patients for about 3.5 of those years. And that's all that I did, the last 24 to 48 hours. And sometimes it was a little bit longer, depending. Every person's journey is unique to them, just like their dying experience is unique to them.
Wow.
So I would always tell them that wherever they're going is better than what they're dealing with right now. And that just brought a sense of peace. And I wasn't imposing my belief, but it brought them comfort. And I think that was very helpful to them in that, in this experience. So.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You've had to go through a certain amount of training for this. I mean, I can't imagine myself just saying, hey, sign me up for this. I want to volunteer and just stepping into it. Right. What do you have to do to prepare for this?
Well, there's lots of things.
Right.
I look at Gabby because she's helping a lot with our what we consider onboarding of volunteers.
Right.
So she's helping a lot with
You're
our
the
training.
Volunteer coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So we're both volunteer coordinators.
Okay.
So the doula program falls under the volunteer program because we're giving you a certification for your doula, a certificate for your doula, where some people pay for that. Some people go to classes and pay for that. We
That's
actually
what I've heard.
met someone at the Mystic Fair who had taken a class like from the University of Maryland or Pennsylvania, something like that.
You're right.
And it was like a medical college, and they got their doula certification, and they paid for it.
Wow.
Which is amazing that people want to do that.
Absolutely.
Because it is needed.
So
but what we offer is 100 volunteer hours of service, and then we provide you with the training, the mentoring, and all of that, and the practical hours, and you receive your certification through that. So it falls under the volunteer program.
So 100 hours.
Yes.
That's quite a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It sounds like quite a bit. But I feel like a lot of times with our volunteers that want to sit vigil, that feel called to sit at the very end of life.
Right.
And our doulas that sit at the very end of life, they sit in blocks of time. And so those hours add up pretty quickly.
Sure.
I know we have doulas that sit like probably 2 to 3 times a week with patients.
Right.
And so those hours add up really, really fast. They do have to be on for an entire year because that's like the agreement.
Right.
We provide you with the certification and the training, and then you provide us with the practical experience.
So even if you were to if you were to do the 100 hours like all in one fell swoop, you'd still have to wait a year.
Yeah, because we believe. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
We believe that the practical experience is a big part in that. So you need like someone they're supporting you and and supporting patients and their families in this journey.
And the longer you have had that experience, so if you cram it all in, it's a lot of information. It's via the training, our first initial training day. That's the first step. We have an 8-hour training day where you and other individuals who want to learn to be doulas attend. Right. And our trainers, we go over this intensive, it's a little bit of self-reflection. It's a little bit of what the heck is a doula.
Yeah.
It's how do I best support, even talking about what might be your fears in being a doula. So there's a lot that's covered, and you walk away with a lot of information. And just like in my opinion, in any other experience, when you get a bunch of information, you kind of need some time to sit on that.
Yes.
And to pull that information back up. So we have an online portal where we have learnings to, it pulls back a little bit of that original learning, but it also extends on that. Some extra added pieces that might not have been fully discussed in that initial day of training.
Right.
And so you're continuing your learning by these online trainings, but also continuing to practice. If you did that first day of training, your online learnings, and all your hours so quickly, that would be a lot of not only information, but emotional stuff. You kind of need some time to process, too. Even if you're in the place that you think, yes, I'm ready to be a doula, I'm going to do this, it's heavy work.
It is heavy.
I can imagine.
You have to take some time for yourself. You can't just put your all into it and expect, okay, I'm going to walk away being the best doula after, just like any work you do. People need self-care and to take a break and And so that's something that we also work towards in our doula program. So I think that's why it was decided, a year and 100 hours. Once both of those two things are met,
Right.
then that's when the certificate, and obviously the class work and that kind of thing is complete. But once that's done, then we feel you're a little bit more prepared. You've dealt with that emotional burden.
Right.
Because it's heavy. It's heavy. Dying no one's going to get out of this world alive.
That's true.
But there's also a lot of personal stuff that people could, you could get tied in. There's always that possibility. And so we feel that having that mentorship throughout the year and those practical hours is very, very important.
Oh, I can imagine. When I would imagine with the cycle of a year, you go through the holidays, you go through different weather conditions, you go through people's birthdays, you go through all of these things, a cycle of a year, just so you would have the experience of death around the holidays and around birthdays and Mother's Day and Father's Day and all these different things, right? This is a sacred duty.
It's very sacred. Sacred. And I was going to say hospice is so real and raw. Like every emotion comes up and people don't hold back. Wow. And so I think that our doulas go through that and they see that, like they see the different emotions that come up with family dynamics or think, like if someone passes around the holidays, that's going to be a difficult time for them maybe for the rest of their lives, especially if they haven't been given the support that they need during that time. So
right. How much do you support the patient who's transitioning versus how much do you support the family?
I honestly think it's probably pretty equal.
And I think it could be different in each situation.
Yep.
That's a good answer.
So I have a doula of mine. She hasn't received her certificate, but I call them doulas as they're practicing throughout and, working on all of that. She has shared stories with me about, someone being alone and, not want, as Ascend Hospice, we're sitting with patients to make sure that there's a calming presence. There's someone there with these individuals, whether it's family, whether it's us, we're gonna be there for them.
Right.
And so there was an individual that my volunteer had sat with, and she said there wasn't any family, and so she felt called to be there and be present. Whereas I've had another doula who went to a vigil, and she was going to relieve one of our social workers. So our social worker was going to head out for the day, and this doula was going to go in and sit. Well, right at the last minute, some family dynamics just happened. And a family member needed to be escorted out or just asked to leave by another family member in the room just because and lots of chaos, can come up. And so she walked in and the social worker said I was trying to send her a message, hey, don't come in. Because she didn't want to put that on someone who's a volunteering their time. So my social worker was like, I was about to say, don't worry about it. And what ended up happening was something really beautiful. My volunteer was able to go in and support the social worker and the family.
Wow.
And so the social worker said it wasn't so much that she came in and said, okay, we need to do what Jill says. It was that she was a calming presence, that she could be there to be a team member with her.
Right.
And it was just her presence being there to help calm the environment. And so situation where you're very much there to help the family dynamics, even our team members, and then one where you're just there to be present with this patient and provide peace and make sure maybe to be their advocate, to go step out in the hall and say, hey, has this person gotten their medication recently?
Right.
Maybe to be the person that turns down the lights or asks, maybe brings the door closed because there's someone sweeping out in the hallway and they just, maybe there's a lot going on. And so there's so much that a doula can do. And I don't think it's ever going to look exactly the same at each vigil or at each, I say vigil, but at each
passing.
Each passing.
Right. Well, we've been dying for tens of thousands, if not millions of years,
Right.
right? We ought to be pretty good at this. But none of us ever receive a training manual for it, right? You know, in families, it's like, well, especially if the first person dies, and we don't know what to do, right? I think maybe in cultures even 50 years ago, when more people were living close and living in a larger family structure,
it was common.
Right?
It was common to be present at bedside. Death was in our homes. It was real.
It was so much more common.
Yeah.
And
Away
so
from that for some reason in our culture.
Right. So I don't
it's
know
like
if
a taboo thing to talk about, to learn about, to be involved with. And I think our hospice and our doulas provide the education and that support that's needed for families and patients.
I have again another story. A doula that she loves to use our oils that we have. So one is called Journey, and it's specifically developed for, designed for palliative care, end-of-life care.
Right.
It's got frankincense and myrrh and
rose,
and it's
olive oil.
Those are wonderful. You watching us on YouTube can't see this, but on top of my credenza over there, I've got rose and frankincense and myrrh.
Oh my God!
So,
that's awesome. But
tools of the trade.
It's a beautiful tool for our doulas at times, and some individuals are more comfortable with things than others. Like they feel like that's their what they can utilize, their tool.
Right.
And so one of my volunteers, she likes to offer to the family, I can massage this hand. Do you want to massage that hand when she's sitting bedside when it's near end of life? Because it provides, aromatherapy is very beneficial, but also that benefit of positive touch and allowing the family, letting them know without saying it's okay to touch them, but giving them an example of like this is what we can do to make them comfortable without having to give them directions. This is what you need to do. It's more of a if you'd like. We can rub this oil. We can massage their hands. It can definitely make them more comfortable, things like that.
Oh, that's really nice because I think, I've certainly had family members die, and we're just kind of feeling awkward sometimes. We just don't know what to do. It's nice to have direction, right? And nice to have suggestions. And I remember when my grandmother died, which was the first real death in the family that I had attended, and the hospice was invaluable, letting us know, okay, this is what's happening with your grandmother's organs. This is what her process is right now. This is what you can expect. That was tremendously helpful, right?
And I think that's our goal. Why I got into hospice in general, my grandma got really sick when I was like 18 or 19, and I couldn't even go into the hospital to see her because I knew nothing about sickness or dying or anything, and they were thinking that she might go. She didn't. She survived, thankfully, but after a couple of years, I was like, why was I so afraid? Like, why was I so afraid? Why don't I know about this? Like, why no one was like, hey, let me talk to you. Let me tell you what's going on. So I got my CNA, and I was like, I want to take care of people in my family. And my friends were like, you're not going to be able to do that. You're so sensitive. Like, you're not
going to be a puddle on the floor.
Yeah, basically. And I found hospice, and I felt called to it. Like, I definitely cried when I saw my first patient pass away.
Right.
But I felt like I heard some, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So hospice is a beautiful thing to me, and it's definitely given me the confidence, and it helps me educate people. Like, I educate my family and friends on, like, what we actually do. Like, it's not just about dying, but it is dying with dignity, journeying on that, going on that experience and that journey with you. So,
wow.
It's amazing.
So, what do doulas do? Just walk me through that process.
Okay.
So there is a lot that a doula can do.
I'm sure.
Obviously, we talked about, use of aromatherapy.
Sure.
And so that's actually part of
And
our...
Reiki, too. You guys have Reiki.
We
yes.
do. We do have Reiki.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's not something we teach, but yes,
Right.
we
You
bring
offer,
in Reiki
yes.
volunteers.
Yeah, and
yes.
volunteers provide Reiki to our patients. So
That's
that's
lovely.
really awesome. Mm-hmm.
And we have massage therapists.
On staff.
Yes.
On staff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. Our patients get massage therapy like either weekly or monthly or whatever they need to help with pain control and positive touch. And,
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so our massage therapists actually kind of help in our doula training program.
They do.
They come in and touch on all of the oils and what they're used for, because we have partnered with an individual who's blended these oils for specific diagnosis. And so the massage therapists come in and kind of touch on that, explain that, and go over hand massage techniques and tell them, if you're setting the intention, you're not going to do it wrong. And so they go over that with all our doulas so that they can do that at the end of life. So they have something to do, because I know some people are doers. They want a task. They want,
Yes.
this is my goal. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring to the family. Another doing thing is we have vigil planning. So if we have patients who are on service and they want to have those difficult end-of-life type conversations, doulas are ready for that. They're ready to have those conversations. They can facilitate those conversations that the patient may not want to have with the family. They may be worried about what their family member might feel or think or have to say about their thoughts about end-of-life.
Sure.
So another doing thing, but it can mean a lot to patients to be able to have someone to share that to.
Sure.
Doulas also do like vigil planning with our patients. So like asking them what they want during their dying experience, like how they want the mood set, the space around them. Do they want candles lit? Do they want it to be a low lighted area? Do they want lots of friends and family in the room with them? Or do they want it quiet and peaceful with music playing? They go in and have those conversations because it empowers the patient to still have their independence in some way, and their it's really awesome.
Oh, that is beautiful, beautiful. I just have to ask, is this something that's covered by insurance?
So it's a hospice. Hospice is an insurance benefit.
Yeah.
So
What? Right. Okay. Yeah.
There's a benefit within
Right.
every insurance that pays 100% for hospice.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
within private insurance, commercial insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, there's a benefit that pays 100% for hospice. So
Wonderful.
especially with Ascend Hospice, if you're on hospice services, you are allowed to have these opportunities. We have volunteer services in general that provide companionship, and those extra trained doulas that are ready to have those companionship conversations, those deep conversations, those vigil planning. So technically, yes, it is covered under insurance.
Wonderful.
yeah,
Right, because I can imagine we've got massage therapy and aromatherapy and a social worker and a doula and people around the clock. That's
absolutely.
And even if need be, we provide maybe a special bed. Maybe they have
right.
maybe they're in the home and the bed that they're in isn't something that's conducive for maybe their ability to get up and down or get around in the house. And so we can provide a hospital bed into the home. We can provide a low air loss mattress in case we have patients that might be getting sores from their bed.
Right.
And so it helps prevent things like that. And, wheelchairs and bedside commodes and walkers, things that are needed for them.
Right.
Because, if they're on hospice for these things,
Right.
then we provide those things. We
Their
also
comfort, for their comfort.
Right. And their dignity, too.
And their dignity.
So they can get up out of bed themselves and get to the commode if they can, et cetera, while they still can.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so Gabby, I understand your why, that you were afraid when your grandmother was in hospice and she was at the hospital. I totally relate to that. Being 18 years old, you just have no concept, right? And so this is something you wanted to do and get into so that you could understand it. Now, Jordan, what about you? What's your why?
So the medical field has always been very present in my life. When I was in 4th grade, my brother was diagnosed with cancer. So luckily he was diagnosed with what you would want to be considered the kind of leukemia that you would want to get if you had to get leukemia.
Okay.
So the treatment process was a 3-year process and then remission and yada yada. But he is about to graduate college and he's fine. So
wonderful.
No heartbreaking story there, but just it was always present in my life, the possibility of death. And the medical field was ever present in my life. Going to the hospital to take Garrett to get chemotherapy, going to the hospital for Garrett to get a checkup, and very, very present in my life. And I didn't ever really decide, but just kind of knew I'm going to be in the medical field. So how do I best help people in the medical field?
Right.
I had an internship at a children's hospice because I had...
That's hard.
Working with children had always resonated with me, working with children who were sick, because I kind of understood a little bit about that. I know I myself wasn't in that situation, but
your brother was, and so you know how to support somebody and support, what the family's going through.
Yeah. And so I experienced hospice and was like, what is this? This is amazing.
Wow.
I didn't really know what to expect when I went into it, just I'm going to work with kids, and I was going to be the person who brought in games and fun things.
To distract them.
Yep. And so then I learned, I was like, about the beast that is hospice, and the whole, the team, that all the things that comes along with hospice. Wow. The bereavement coordinators that follow up with families, the social workers who are doing their routine visits. I had an amazing experience in there, what they call IDT, interdisciplinary team meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So going into there and hearing the doctor asking a chaplain what she thought we should do for medication with the patient. Not necessarily as her medical professional opinion, just talking about pain medication administration. So this individual was 16 years old, so how do you promote dignity for this patient? And so having that conversation with the chaplain and the doctor listening to what they had, other team members had to say, was like, at that point, that's when I knew, okay, hospice is amazing. So now let me experience it in a different way. Let me see, can I understand, how it works for individuals who are at end of life, who have experienced life throughout.
Right.
And so I did another internship and came to Ascend and have stayed because I genuinely want to help people. Figure that's the call.
That's the calling.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Christy. I just want to say that we here at Radiate Wellness hope you're enjoying this podcast. It's free to you, and we hope that you find it informative and inspirational. Heck, even fun. We have just 3 small asks of you to help us radiate growth. First, please hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening on. That way, you'll receive a notification every time that we have a new podcast episode out. Next, please give us a thumbs up, a like, or a 5-star review. If you're feeling inspired, a positive review wouldn't hurt. These 2 small things will help others find us when they're searching for great podcasts. Finally, please tell your friends about the Radiate Wellness podcast. Better yet, show them how to find us and how to subscribe. If everyone did that, we would double our audience. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate it.
So, Jordan, you come at this from a social work perspective, and Gabby, you come at it from a nursing perspective. That's really what we want, right? So, what do you think is the most rewarding thing about what you do? What do you love best about it?
Well, there's a lot of things. I'm trying to pinpoint the most rewarding.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I really like what Jordan said. Helping people help others, I think, is a big deal for me. But it's also at Ascend, no one dies alone, and that's a big deal to me. I think it's everyone's there for the birth. Everyone should be there for the death as well. So,
Right.
I love when I get those calls from my doulas to when they're telling me about their experience that they've had helping a family deal with that difficult time that they're having.
Right.
And so it's almost like being able to empower other people, because there's no way that, one person, even two people, can be able to address all that there is about death.
Right.
And so being able to hear other people say, I was able to do this for someone.
Yeah.
It's so big to be the person that they can share that to, because you get to be thanked in this field. It's not a thankless job, but
right.
No one wants to brag, like, oh, I did this.
Right.
And so I love being able to be the person that celebrates everyone's strengths, and they can come and say, maybe they didn't have the easiest time, and I can help build them up so that they can do it again and do better and be there and be calming presence for those patients that are passing.
Yeah, I love it. Do you have any stories of something that would be typical or really heartwarming or just really stand out for you?
Like personal experiences?
Yeah, like with your work.
So I sit, I think we all sit vigil at times now, but I've sat a lot of vigil times.
Right.
I sat with a younger person, probably about 13, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, honestly. Like, when they asked me, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think that this is going to be for me. I love kids, and I was like, I don't know if I can deal with that. I've only dealt with geriatric patients or older patients who are passing. And I sat with this boy for about 4 days. He passed on the 4th day that I was there. And and there were lots of raw emotions, obviously, and so many emotions and different family dynamics that came up. And I left there and I cried. I bawled my eyes out because I was like, how is it that it's okay that a 13-year-old doesn't make it through, and get to live his life? Yeah. But I also, had a peace come over me that was like, you tell everyone that what they're going through at this time is going to be better when they transition. Don't you believe that for that 13-year-old? He was suffering. And I was like, I do believe that. And I actually got a tattoo in his memory.
And it says, be your own beautiful.
And this was above his bed. And his dad said that multiple times to him while I was there. And I was like, what an amazing reminder. And I was like, it's so amazing, I'm going to put it on me.
I love it.
So. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. How about you, Jordan?
Powerful. I don't have as powerful of a story as Gabby, but it's...
Every story is unique. Every story is powerful.
So I had one of my amazing volunteers who sits vigil at crazy hours. We don't normally expect it of people, but she sits, evening. That's best for her life. So she sits overnight evening hours into the morning. Wee hours in the morning. Not expected. That's just what she's called to do. She wants to be there at that time to provide that break. Well, she was telling me just maybe a couple weeks ago, actually, she was sitting bedside with a patient, and her son would pop his head in and check on on his mother and our doula, and he'd pop his head in, and then he'd kind of pace around and he'd go outside, and she offered, why don't you come in? And first couple times he said no. He couldn't. He didn't think he could handle it. Right. Well, slowly throughout the time that she was there, he finally came in and sat down, and because he thought he was just going to stay in for a minute. And she got him to kind of share some stories about his mom and things that he remembered and their life together and things about her. And he ended up staying in there and was in there while his mother passed. When she took her last breath, and our doula was able to like help him have that experience, because had he not had a support person with him, you know, it may not have been the same.
Right.
And so
He may have regretted it.
And after that, he even shared with her, you know, I'm alone now. And she, you know, oh, you obviously have to let people feel what they're feeling. And she's like, it's going to be that way at times. But, you know, you have your wife, you have your daughter.
So at that point, the doula was able to comfort him and to bring him some peace about that. Right.
Definitely.
So the doulas are not medical, definitely, but part mom, part, you know, wise aunt, part hand holder, part babysitter, part psychologist. Absolutely, whatever they need.
Things. Whatever they need at that time.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you know, my world is the spirit world, is the metaphysical side, is the woo-woo.
You know, that's so funny that you say that.
Why is that?
I have a friend that says that, oh, Gabby's into that woo-woo stuff.
The woo-woo stuff.
Yeah, the woo-woo stuff.
And so, you know, we hear stories all the time of there was a mysterious person in the room that, you know, we couldn't identify, or somebody will, on their deathbed, will be saying, oh, there's my mom, there's my husband. I've been with family members and their dog will show up, and, you know, different people. My uncle had a sister who died when she was young. I had no idea, but here's this sister, and I'm like, I don't think I know you.
Yeah.
And, you know, just many, many different things will transpire at end of life. Have you experienced any of that?
I myself have never experienced seeing any one, but I've been with patients that have said, there's my mom, she's here to get me. There's my dad, or there's an angel right here, and they're saying they're ready whenever I am. I have an interesting story. Kind of like freaked me out a little bit at first, but I was sitting with a gentleman, and he was alone, and I was the only one with him. There was a picture of his wife on the windowsill, and it was a pretty large windowsill, so it was kind of set back a little bit. And he started to decline, and I could tell like it was getting closer, that he was going to pass. And all of a sudden, that picture jumped off the windowsill, and I was like, and the funny thing is, like, I got like, for 1 second, I was like, huh, that's creepy, and then I was like, I think your wife's ready for you to go. Like, I think she's, and it just came out of my mouth, too. Like, I didn't even, like, I just, like, 1 second, I was like, oh, that's creepy. And then I was like, no, I think your wife's ready for you to go now. And within an hour, he was like, he let go and passed. And so, yeah. And I've seen, like, electricity turn off and turn back on when someone passes away. Just very interesting stuff. Nothing, like, scary happens, but just very... very cool stuff, I think. We actually, in our trainings, tell all of our volunteers, because we want them to be aware, it brings spiritual feelings. And it also brings, like, I do believe that their loved ones are visiting them and talking them through this process, like telling them that it's going to be okay, just as we are telling them that, and telling them that they're ready for them whenever they are. So we do in our regular trainings, we let our volunteers know what can happen at the end of life, as well as our doulas. So it's a common knowledge among hospice that those things do happen.
And another thing that we kind of encourage everyone to know when, you know, maybe their family members on hospice, just our volunteers in general, oftentimes hearing is the last sense to go. So I know it's not necessarily that other end, but sometimes people who are here with us, who might be lingering on, we're wondering, you know, how come mom hasn't passed? You know, she hasn't eaten in this many days. You know, she, you know, what's keeping her here? And sometimes, you know, we do share with families that, you know, maybe your loved one needs to hear from you, you know, that it's okay, or, you know, you're going to be taken care of. I've had a vigil that I sat at that the son-in-law had to tell the mother that he was going to take care of her daughter now, and it was okay for her to go. And, you know, other situations where they, you know, maybe have been holding on, and we get our team is awesome. We've had chaplain, you know, put on the phone the cousin that's out of state, or
Right.
the daughter that can't be there,
Right.
and getting to have that final moment, that final thing that they say. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, they can't hear us, but it's not the case.
Yeah.
They can.
So do you think that how someone dies has anything to do with how they've lived?
I do, definitely.
I kind of figured that was the case. So
Yeah.
tell me more about that.
So, and I tell a lot of my, like, if I were to sit vigil,
Right.
and maybe a family member may ask, those questions, how come they haven't passed? Well,
Right.
we do also present to some of our family members that, if mom was a really private person, she may be holding on for you to step out of the room. So be aware that if you do step out, that's a possibility that she may pass.
Right.
It's not, she didn't want you there. It may be her trying to protect you. A lot of moms, that's the thing to do. They want to protect their kids. And so sometimes, they die doing the mom thing. They wait till their family's out of the room so they don't have to experience that.
Right.
And so...
It can be traumatic.
Yeah.
Yes.
I had gone to a talk given by Echo Bodine, who is a very well-known medium, and she was talking about at the end of life many times that, the family's sitting vigil, and they say, okay, it's not going to be for a little while yet. We're just so hungry. Let's go get something to eat, and then that's when they pass. And she said it's like you're in the bathroom and somebody's standing outside, and you're just kind of waiting for them to go away so you can do what you need to do, right?
Yes.
That's a funny
example. Yep.
And honestly, all the times that you said you were waiting vigil or talking about waiting vigil, I had in the back of my mind thinking, I wonder if that person is... So you guys are aware that that's... Right.
That's a possibility.
As a possibility. So what do you do? I mean, do you just maybe schedule a time to step away?
I don't know that we necessarily schedule times to step away, but I know that I just always tell the family, hey, maybe you should go get a drink of water or something to eat. Sometimes it's a feeling that I feel and I obviously have had these conversations before, if you step out, I believe things are happening how they're supposed to at this time.
Right.
And so I have those conversations and then I'm like, go have something to eat, have something to drink.
Right.
And we prepare them for that. So if it does happen, and so we ourselves take breaks. We, have to go to the bathroom or go get a drink of water or also step out to eat. That's their space and we want to keep that their space. So if we have something to do, we step out of the room. And if it happens while we step out, that's okay.
That's okay.
And I think the thing is, the hope, the goal, the wish would be that we can foster some of these conversations before we get to our imminent dying phase.
Yes.
And it's not something that's 100% happening with everyone, and it's going to take some time, and it may not ever be right for some people. But to be able to have the conversations, what do you think you might want when it gets to be the time? What would you like? Do you want everyone to come? Do you want everyone to gather around?
Right.
What do you want?
Right. So what are some common things that people talk about or experience at the end of life, do you think? Is there any commonality, or is it just wow, it's just so different for each person?
I definitely think they're more open to spiritual talk, and not necessarily any certain religion, but just talking about what may be on the other side.
Right.
Experiencing those thoughts and feelings with our chaplains. And our chaplains are all non-denominational, so really what they go in is just to have conversations with our patients, whatever they want to talk about. So our chaplains go in and have conversations about if they were religious and they would like to experience those rituals at the end of life that their religion did. So a lot of our patients are, we have Catholic patients that they do Sacrament of the Sick. So they come in and do the last rites and do communion. Whatever that may be, we are open to it all. And I feel like they do open up more when they get closer to passing about those spiritual feelings.
So this has been a very important conversation. I feel like I really gained a new respect for what you guys do. And I think it's so important. And so again, Jordan and Gabby with Ascend Hospice.
Yes.
And you have a facility?
No, we go to
Okay.
patients' homes and nursing homes wherever they live. So wherever they may live, we
Wherever
go to.
they live.
Mhm.
And is there a website?
There is ascendhospice.com.
Excellent. We'll put that in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for
Thank you.
having us.
We are so glad to talk about that.
Yay.
Radiate Wellness is a community of holistic and alternative healers and consultants based in the Kansas City area, dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.